she's got a lot of neat stuff. So, good question, Lila. That's and Megan's available by phone, and I'm available by phone. My card is there. And Dr. Tom is available by phone, or you can call the lab and chat. We're constantly putting out new things to you. Okay, let's start with the 10 vet tools. She's recording this, so thank you. Number one is aloe vera. Aloe vera does 15 things. Tremendous, tremendous product. It's anti-inflammatory. It lubricates joints. It's gut friendly. Anybody that's got Crohn's should be on aloe vera and humates. Humates, and we're going to talk about humates. That is huge in the organic world. And it negates cortisol, okay? That's the stress hormone. It stimulates immune function, heals epithelial tissue, is both antiviral and antimicrobial. I'm going to move this aside. Here are some books to read. Invisible Rainbow just came out. Arthur Freiberger. And he talks about all the frequencies that we're exposing ourselves to. The electromagnetic fields. We now have G5. It starts with Schumann. You know what Schumann lines are? Schumann lines envelop the Earth, and they're from frequencies set up for lightning. There's lightning on this planet. Someplace, many places, every day. And so there's a frequency above the ground of Schumann lines. And they can get stronger or they can get weaker depending on lightning. There's ley lines. Ley lines follow organic matter. There's Hartmann lines. There's Curry lines. You cannot build a house in China unless you have your lot checked for ground ruts. And they do that with L-rods. I use L-rods when I'm doing investigation of stray voltage. I may touch on that after. That's my main employment right now. I have banks and people that, before they put $2 million into the Newberry setup, they want to know about stray voltage. It's not stray, it's just the return of the voltage. We're hitting electricity out, and the excess would run back to the ground. It's called the open delta system. And if you have a new equal potential plane, your resistance is lower than the grid. And it's going to come into your pig barn, your dairy barn, and it's killer. The big fat surprise, Nina Teicholz. That's what animal fat. It's the myth of cholesterol. We're the only company in the world that worries about cholesterol. And that was by a guy by the name of Ansel Keys. Did this on 12 men. And nobody can repeat what he did. But the drug company grabbed this and pushed it down our throats. If you're on cholesterol, you maybe want to read this book. Dancing with Water. These are Melanie Evans and Pangman, are female physicists and quantum physicists. This is about structured water. It's really vortex water. And we'll touch on that later. Vortex is when you run water through crystals, it takes a 10-sided tetrahedron and enlarges it, and it has totally different properties. Huge new on the horizon. The organic is jumped on a big time, and the alternative world has to. Secret Life of Plants, Stephen Buhner. Wow. Plants communicate. Animals communicate. I teach a lot of young vet students, a lot of people, cows and horses and animals, they pick up in intent. If you come into a dairy barn and your wife, and you have just had a knockdown, drag out argument, those cattle can pick it up right now. Intent. When you tell a cow, you can talk it, you can intent things into a cow. You're a cow, and I'm treating you with ketosis. And the farmer's right here. And I know you got ketosis. And I tell the farmer, I'm going to give this animal on the glucose, we're gonna give it this, we're gonna give it that, we're gonna do that tomorrow, you know? Or if I'm alone, you just talk to the cow, and how do you settle down a cow or a horse? You start up at the shoulder blades, spread your hand out, and you just come all the way to the tail. Go up, spread your hands out, and you think, this is really a nice horse. You're gonna settle down. What are you doing? You're running over acupuncture meridians. And I do this to cows all the time. I don't know if this cow is wild or she's gentle. And then about the fourth time, you lean against her. And when you put leaning against her, you're telling that cow that I got confidence, you're not gonna hurt me. It's not training. And then you go all the way down to the tail. And you do this maybe 8 or 9 times, and quite often that cow will go. That means you've entered her space and she's not afraid of you. And then you can tell her, you're gonna get better in 2 days. And a lot of times when you're talking to these cows, non-verbal. You don't even know I've been talking to this cow. But 1 out of 5 times that cow will turn around and look you right in the eye. And the hair on the back of the neck. Now, don't laugh at me. These young female veterinarians get this. Males are having trouble with it. Males are hard to train to dogs. Females, how many of you handle dogs? This is quartz with beryllium ore. Got it in San Juan Gems. Any dowsers in here? It's totally lost profession. You are. Darby is. You've done it. Dowsing, you can learn so much. You run it over your finger and you gotta find out, show me yes. Clear your mind. And you know, your yes is either this way or this way. So where do we use it? We stir all our tinctures once a week. We wanna create a vortex in our tinctures over a 4-week period. What do I do to Lobelia? Do I go clockwise? No. Do I go counterclockwise? Yes. So we're going to stir it counterclockwise. You young people get it out, get a feminine, and get L rods. Dowsing is huge. How do I get on that subject? Okay, Secret Life of Plants. Now, there's another book came out of Germany, and it's sitting down in books. I go down there and buy books every time I come here. This is German. Peter Wollengren is a German forester. All their forests have foresters, and if a tree dies, they replant it. Or if a tree needs to be reculled, if a limb falls off, they use it. They take care of their forests. And they have found that trees can communicate through the fungi. If a mother tree, and they did this on beech trees, if there's a beech tree over here and a wind brings a branch and knocks half the top off for limbs, this mother beech tree will feed sugars to her offspring through the fungi. And you knew this in Africa. The giraffes, if the giraffes would start feeding on an acacia tree, these trees would put out like a pheromone. Like the insects have pheromones to tell the other trees downwind, hey, I'm getting eaten. And all of a sudden, all these trees would pick up this pheromone, fill their leaves with tannins. And the giraffes would stop eating. The giraffes got smart enough, so they'd turn around and say, they don't know about that here. And they eat into the wind. All these are books, they're interesting. Secret Life of Plants from Mueller. He lives in Utah and he's still alive. And The Secret Life of Trees. Nourishment. Fred Provenza from Utah. This is a newer book. And it's a study of plants and animals and the relationship. And it is one of the best books I've ever read. And you can get all these on Amazon if you like to read. This Nourishment is tremendous. Chinese Syndrome. Lila, would you want to tell us about that? You're the one that heard. Isn't that the name of that Chinese book?
Oh, sorry, I don't remember it.
Talk real loud. We should hear about that.
Yeah. Sorry, I'll try to bring it back to memory. What's the name of the book?
What is the name of the book you told me about? Chinese
I can't remember right now.
Syndrome.
I'll talk to the video when it's come back.
Okay,
I'm totally focused on what you're doing.
okay, but that's a good one. And then Raising Organic Animals, my book there. And The Biology of Belief. This is a quantum physicist book. They discovered that the cell membrane on a single cell animal, the cell membrane is the brain. The cell membrane on amoeba, they don't have a brain cavity or a gap, but the cell membrane is the nervous system of the brain. And that's how that goes. Okay, back to the 10 natural tools. Aloe vera. Now, I can put this down. That's why I wanted to get rid of this. If you want to put this on your phone, your really smart phone, you can take a picture of any of these, okay? Men, this is for you. I got red lipstick on this girl. What's red mean? Means danger, man. That's why women wear red lipstick, and they never put on. They get married, they don't buy any more lipstick.
I thought
I won't go there. I won't go there. Please. Okay. I took a course in organic chemistry in pre-vet. I had to get A's in organic chemistry to get into that school. And I was a janitor 5 hours a night going to school, and I had little note cards. Because I needed three A's in organic, I needed an A in quantum and quality, I needed 6 A's in chemistry. So this Dr. Kelch, University of Minnesota, 2,400 kids in one class in the auditorium. I got the smartest valedictorians all over the United States, and I'm a naive little farm away, and I'm not going to make it. So I'm studying. And this Dr. Kelch, he wore the same suit for a whole year. He was quiet. He was the best teacher I ever had. He'd be talking. Now this is important, students. That meant I was going to be on the test. And I'd start it, and I'd go back to sleep. And then he turned around and said, this is important. This is going to be important. Here's the immune system. This is the immune function. Okay? Here's optimum health. There's death. So it makes sense you want to be up here. There's 2 times in an animal's life where the immune system takes a little vacation. And this is when you stop lactating and dry off. Whether it's a ewe, or a horse, or a cow, or a Homo sapien. There's a 7-day depression of immune function. This was discovered by the Embro Company in Waukon, Iowa, who started pre-immunizing cows with the Merck manual for mastitis, from birds that have mastitis. And they would grow all these bacteria that were all back, and then you kill them with bacterids. So they had all of these bacteria, and they would inject them into cows in a regular herd, and then you would want to harvest 1 gallon of colostrum. The average Holstein girl has 2 gallons of colostrum. And they say, you need one for your cat, but we want to buy 1 gallon of clean colostrum. Okay? Because there's antibodies against all those bacteria for mastitis. Here is parturition or birthing. For 2 weeks before and 2 weeks after your immune system, Iowa State University says in certain animals that aren't nutritionally perfect, you can have a 75% in immune function. They say, why? Because the endocrine system, the pituitary gland, the pineal body, on the thyroid, on the voice box, you have the thyroid, you have the parathyroid, you have your thymus, you have your adrenal, your pancreas, your liver, ovary, testes, uterine body, seminal vesicle. These are the glands. This is what A2 milk screws up, folks. A2 or A1 milk. If you're drinking regular Holstein cows, A1 milk, when you leave mama's breast, who's an A2, in your first introduction to A1 milk, you have a severe inflammatory reaction in the endocrine system. We'll talk about that. So, you have a hormone is a messenger. Hormone is a messenger. This is called estrogen. Comes out of the pituitary gland, goes down to the ovary, and says, you're old enough now, this 19-month heifer, or goat, or sheep, or 17-year-old girl, you're going to start growing eggs, and you're going to have what's called estrus. You're going to start cycling. Okay? When you get hormones moving around, you get the release of cortisol. Cortisol. Cortisol is a temporary fight or flight hormone, and it interferes with your immune function. It interferes with your immune function. Okay? Aloe vera, which is a mucopolysaccharide, it's a big sugar. Aloe vera is 3,000 carbons long. Carbon is the only element on the elemental chart that can bind to itself. Of the 92 elements on the elemental chart, nitrogen can't do it, and nobody else can do it. That's why we're a carbon-based molecule on this planet. Okay? And so Ace Mannon, from this big sugar, wipes out the effect of cortisol. Let's take it one step further. This animal gets pneumonia, or this animal gets mastitis. This is an instantaneous thing. You get a depression of the immune system with mastitis, bad uterus, any infection, COVID. COVID is going to shut your immune system down. Okay? Aloe vera says no. It's called an immune modulator. An immune modulator. This is known. Iowa State University and Iowa City tore this apart. This is not a joke. This is real. When this came out, every cow that I saw in practice for the last 6 or 7 years that had any infection at all, I gave her 300 cc's of aloe vera. So you got cattle you're buying from the sale barn. In Iowa, they got all these little feedlots. 100 head, 200 head. These guys in Iowa are cornaholics. They throw in soybeans once every 5 years. And these guys, they've got the corn industry so developed that they can grow corn on a rock. I mean, we have got some of that absolute best corn in America in a 60-mile stretch of Arcadia, Wisconsin. Our spring was beautiful. Our rains are perfect. Corn was tasseling at Arcadia, Wisconsin when I left a week ago Thursday. I went up to Bozeman, Montana and had a meeting. And this corn is just beautiful, okay? But they all got feedlots. And so they call up the buyer and say, I'm ready for 200 head. So they either get balding calves from Colorado, North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana, they bring in Iowa. What's happened? It's a balding calf that just got on. They will vaccinate it with black plague, everything, viruses. Every vaccine is a stress on the immune system. They'll castrate the bulls. Angus don't have 82% of the beef cattle in the United States today are Angus. Talk about an industry that put a cell job and how they improved their genetics. The Angus cattle, when I was a boy in Minnesota, was a little fat thing that was wild as a deer. And nobody had Angus, but they took genetically through hybrid selection, not GMOs. They just took the best looking animal and made it better, they quieted it down. They were wild, hold it, kick it. It last so long, you couldn't do anything until they were choked to death. You know, but anyway, so these calves come in, they got new water, they got new air currents, they got new ground currents, and who's the boss? They gotta socialize, and you're stronger, you're picking on her, and so you're afraid of her, and she picks on you, and these cattle go through a huge stress. huge stress, and they get pneumonia. They get pneumonia. What I recommended to my feet, I've got a big dealer in Central Iowa. I said, you tell you guys, I put a meeting on for all the feedlot guys. I said, when you buy calves, tell them at the sale barn, don't vaccinate them. If you're buying them off a ranch, I said, you're going to wean them. If they want to castrate them, fine. But don't give them anything else. Load them up, and they're going to feed them corn silage and corn in Iowa. The rumen isn't made for grain. Grain is for poultry. Grain does not have any minerals in it. It's all energy. And so these cattle have a huge dietary change. I mean, it's a huge stress. You put them on aloe vera pellets, 8 ounces per head per day. The other thing is a lot of these corn farmers have a little water waste and make a few round bales. And I said, what are they eating in Montana? Grass. Okay, we're not going to feed them corn silage for 2 weeks, guys. You're going to put a round bale feeder in there, and you're going to put some nice grassy hay, and we're going to put them on aloe vera pellets. And it's so fun. I did this with one of my corn farmers. There are corn farmers in Wisconsin too that don't milk cows. And this guy would buy 170 head from Montana, and he could have them delivered in 23 hours, which means he didn't have to offload them for the agriculture department. In 23 hours, he'd bring them in and put them on corn silage and that. And they were vaccinated for everything known to man and castrated, and we watched them die. Gordon Deere, Melvin Hills with everything. He was on the bank board in Dale'sville, and I was on the bank board in Clare. We were a bank meeting. We weren't really bankers. We were just. They have people on the board that are in the community that know everybody. The old banker would put me on the board, and he said, "I want guys on the board to know whose check is good and whose wife is bad." And so that's my job. Anyway, that'll be my last joke. Anyway, this guy, we'd lose 10 to 12 head. He'd have $3,000–4,000 vet bill every year. And I had developed this in Pennsylvania. I was a consultant for a big company in Pennsylvania, and I developed an aloe pellet out there. And I said, I can see where you're frustrated. I said, let's try something. And you feed them a round bale, put a round bale feeder in there, don't use corn silage, and we're going to put them on aloe. And he was in the center of my practice, and he had a slotted floor with a harvester full of corn silage, and he had a catwalk. And he had an H bunk in the middle, and then stalls when he laid out. I said, I will stop every day and not charge you a cent other than the aloe pellets, and they were going to be a whole lot cheaper than all the rice. And I said, if there's going to be a train wreck, I want to be on top of it. And so I'd stop and I'd walk the cattle. Usually I'd stop between 10 and 2, and they were all fed and they're all laying down. And I'd get on the catwalk and I'd just walk and they'd all get up. First day, how's it going? Good. You're eating the round meal. Second day. And what you watch for, I'm not going to give them a temperature to look at them. After you're going to practice, you watch for a hollow belly. Some calf that didn't eat is going to have a hollow belly. So I go on the third day, and here 170 head get up, and every one of them had a clear discharge dripping out of both nostrils. I said, "Ooh, what happened here?" And he said, they got a little cough. That he said, they all ate. He said, what should I do? I said, why don't you go in the house and get 170 handkerchiefs and wipe their nose? I said, we're not going to do anything. Well, I'll stop tomorrow. The next day, they were about the same. Third day, they got shut up. That was a bacteria. We get to the 8th or 9th day, everybody got up. The whole group coughed. That was a virus. No hollow bellies. You could just see that immune system working. This aloe vera was wiping out the stress. We had one animal about 2 weeks later that had a big abscess on its foot. It got probably hurt in transit. but he never treated an animal. And the next thing he did is he said to Goodsgood, he never asked him for a thing. We go back to a bank meeting, and he says, give me some more of that gold. He said, that is unbelievable. So in aloe vera, when you're weaning, if you castrate a horse and you're worried about infection, put them on aloe vera for 4, 5, 6 days. And why is this happening here? Well, you have a pelvis in all mammals, and the pelvis is a bony structure with ligaments. And if you look at a cow or a sheep or a goat, you can tell their back end gets involved. It gets more swollen, it drops in, and you have the pelvic ligaments. You don't want to have a birth of a mammal through a test-spider pelvis. You want a pelvis that can rock and roll. When you're going to pull an animal that's too big for your opening, you pull one foot through, and you pull the other. And you pull this. You don't pull like this. You want to slide this shoulder ahead, and then slide this shoulder ahead. And remember that, whether it's a sheep or a goat or a pig or anything. And so this is the hormone story. Every animal that I saw, conventional or organic, that I was treating with drugs on the conventional world or botanicals on the organic world, got drenched with aloe vera. And the aloe vera pellet, you can use aloe vera pellets for chickens, sheep, and goats. Comes in an alfalfa meal, okay? This is our aloe vera pellet. We have garlic in here, sea kelp, and I'll talk about those later. Comes in a 25-pound plastic pail or a 40-pound bag. It would be the first thing you should reach for when you get expenditures. If you're only going to buy one thing, buy aloe vera. And you don't need a 40-pound bag if you only got 30 chickens, you know. So you better be aware of it. That was the first tool that really went through the organic world that made a difference. So, number 2 is a tincture. I'm going to speed up here. Speed me up.
I'll be your time, girl.
Tinctures. I'm kind of known as the tincture man in the U.S. and the organic world because I've tried so many things and done so many things. And if you look in the back of how tinctures have grown, there's a tincture for everything. And these gypsies that the Native Americans do. And there's about 20 tinctures that have just blown me away. Arnica, comfrey, anybody that has knee surgery, shoulder surgery, or hip surgery, you need to be on comfrey. Comfrey speeds the osteoclast out of your sternum and your bone marrow. You can heal bones in 50% of the time with comfrey. It is the most amazing thing. Here's what we do with Dr. Paul's. I just counted them this morning. There are 71 different herbs that we tincture. And it took me 10 years to get the universal solvent. We use 190 proof organic cane alcohol. We have to have a permit from the Department of Tobacco and Narcotics. That's $250 a year. We cannot sell any of it. It's only for medicinal purposes. But it's the ultimate. See, I first started out with brandy. And I'd get working in the lab on Saturday, and I'd nip a little bit. I'd go in the house, and she says, "You're out of brandy again." I fixed her, and it was vodka. So that's a story. Anyway, we went to 190 proof, and we learned how to measure. I'm sitting on a plane with Dr. Daniel Scow, who's probably the best paid veterinarian in the United States. He passed away 3 years ago. This guy's written books. He was, surround yourself with smart people and listen to them. Surround yourself with smart people. And then if they need direction. Anyway, he's a smart person I had. Anyway, he said, how do you measure your tinctures? He said, that's stupid. How do you know one bottle of your cells is good and one's bad? I said, how do we measure? Get a counter cookie meter. all the organic molecules that you suck out of these plants is going to increase the ERGs. What's ERGs? Energy raised per gram of soil. What do we worry about energy in the soil? Well, it takes 300 ERGs in the soil in the spring to germinate seed. You don't put potatoes in the ground when it's cold. You don't put corn in until the ground. The microbes, which we're going to talk about, are who give energy in the soil. When the microbes are breaking down organic matter to turn it into humus, and these are the microbes, we'll talk about them, they generate electricity in the soil. Energy raised per gram of soil. That's why you want glyphosate in soil. That's why when they plant corn, they have to have fungi on it, because this stuff doesn't germinate for 2 or 3 weeks. When you put a natural seed in the ground where you have microbiology, and it should be 70 degrees, corn should be up, and you should be able to grow seed corn in 5 days. And the organic world is the last person to plant his seeds. He lets it get warm, and we put in this on fungicide, because you can't, what is science? Fungicides, herbicides, pesticides.
Killers.
Yeah, you know what the 2 word sides are? Homicide and suicide, or suicide. No, you're gonna go last. So anyway, we stir our tinctures into a vortex. We now have structured water in our tinctures. So we put structured water, we up the energy. I'll talk a little bit more about that later on. Okay. There's a tincture for everything. If we tincture 3, this is interesting. There's a book called The Principles of Essential Oils Made Simple. 800-page book, written by a guy in Utah. And he says when you're dealing with organic molecules, 1 plus 1 plus 1 is not 3. When you're dealing with organic molecules, okay? Wrong side. My coffee. Where'd you put my eraser?
Right behind you.
Don't do that. I always like a nice looking, good looking girl up front, and then I can tease her. You ever wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning with an idea? It's a natural phenomenon. It's part of the cosmos. Okay? Dr. Richard Ulrich, one of my genius friends, says, in every cell of your body, you have the mitochondria, and that's where your DNA and RNA, it's your helical spiral of your genes, okay? At 3 o'clock in the morning, in every cell of your body, the genetic code expands 7% at 3 o'clock, not daylight savings time. And this is hooked to the cosmos with the circadian movement and all that good stuff. If there's ever room for clairvoyant thought, it's going to come at 3 o'clock in the morning. And when you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, you write it down. Because you wake up and say, God, what was that I was thinking about? That was so good. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it shrinks 7%. So I got a lot to get in the next 3 hours. Okay? I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was making the ultimate antibiotic, the CEG, cayenne, which kills bacteria, echinacea, which is an immune stimulant. Now, aloe vera is an immune modulator, okay? So you know what I did? I would take an 8-ounce bottle of echinacea and add it to a gallon of aloe. I had an immune stimulator and immune modulator. And every farmer I had, I gave a lot of it away. I'd have, and you get a 300 milliliter drench gun, and I would give the cow, and I'd have maybe this much left. And he said, should I use that tomorrow? And I said, yeah, I want you to use it tonight. This cow's pretty sick. And I want you to go tomorrow and the next day. Here, you can have what's left. I just blew my profit on that call. But, so echinacea is hooked up with cayenne and garlic. I got 2 antibiotics and I got a immune stimulant. Okay, and that's CEG. Now, we measure herbs with a conductivity meter, and cayenne is about in the 600s. Echinacea is in the 500s. Garlic is usually 370 to 400 herbs. We have tinctured moldy garlic one time and got 19 herbs. We have tinctured moldy echinacea one time and got like 20 herbs. We dumped $1,200 worth of tincture down the drain because there wasn't anything in it. And if we hadn't tested that, we would have sold it. So, 1 and 1 and 1 isn't 3. So we use 5-gallon containers, and we'd have cayenne, echinacea, and garlic. I put cayenne, echinacea, and garlic, C-E-G. We stirred it. We stir most of them counterclockwise once a week. And when you're stirring a jug of this, and you're stirring it, and you get it into a vortex. We don't fill them quite full. So we stir this, we get it going and going, and then you reverse it. And when you reverse, you've got every which way but loose. You've got stuff just through. You're causing chaos. Yeah, thank you. Somebody got an A. Chaos. Dr. Davis, in his 800-page book, says chaos is self-organizing, because everything's a plus or a minus. Think about it. He said you're creating new terpenoids, new alkaloids. You're creating a whole plethora of new organic alkaloids by stirring them into a vortex. What happened to our herbs? The first batch we ever made was 1,200 herbs. It's like, woo, what did we do? I don't know what we do. Nobody does. But there's going to be some Bill Gates, deep Bill Gates, in 5, 10, 15 years is going to figure this out. Somebody's going to figure this out. But I do know vortexing is a major help to our tinctures. They all jumped about 200-300 herbs. Anytime we have mixed, we make a lot of combos. Anytime we have a combo, we get that. Yes?
What is the unit you are referring to?
Energy raised per gram of soil. Okay? And we're going to get into that in the carbon cycle. Every bond that gets hooked on with chlorophyll onto your carbon chain, chlorophyll hooks a nitrogen on to a carbon chain. That's either a plus or a minus. And it also has energy, every bond, from photosynthesis, but it has frequency. And we'll get into that carbon cycle. I think it's really interesting. Frequency is what the world's all about. It's all frequency. And so, where are we at here, Brittany?
3.
3? Okay, that's a quick one. What's homeopathy? That's when they take, let's take St. John's wort, and they have sugar pills, sucrose, lactose, they have carbon sugar pills. And they take and they spray St. John's wort onto these sugar pills, and you've got product from the tincture. You're taking the tincture and spraying it on there, and you're putting the frequency on that pill. Now they dilute it out. You've heard of X, C, and you've heard of X. C is 10, X is 100. So you take 10 test tubes, and you have your tincture, and you spray 1 part in the 9 parts of fluid, and you spray it on. That's a 1C. You do this 30 times. You take 1 out of here, go into here. That's a 2C. 1 out of here, dilute it 9 times. So when you get past about 20C, X is 100, or like 12X, you've gone past Avogadro's number, which means there's nothing left of the original. And this is where the reductionists show me the data. People say, homeopathy doesn't work because there's nothing in it. No, you're transferring the frequency. The frequency. What's the frequency come from? Proton, neutron, electron. This is hydrogen. And another one is helium. So it's 2 in the first ring. Hydrogen, helium. Third ring, there's 8 of them. The third is beryllium. Okay? So if it's a plus, this wheel won't have to go through the carbon cycle. And if it's a plus, they're going counterclockwise, and that's a cation. If they're going this way, this little electron going around, that's a negative, that's called an anion. This has 750 millhouse of energy per electron. This has 250. So your negatives have 1/3 the energy. And that energy comes from the spin of the electron. This is a globular thing, okay? And when you have these going around whatever way, you have centrifugal force and centripetal. Centrifugal is when you separate the cream from the butter. The heavier stuff goes out, the lighter stuff wants to go in. So you have this force pulling this way, this force pulling this way, and this is happening with all the electrons, and it sets up the frequency, just like an electromagnetic field. Every element of the elemental chart of the 92, you can figure out if it's a cation or anion, you can figure the energy of every element. Okay? You have, okay, George has an energy. She's got so much calcium. She's got so much sulfur. Look at all of her hair. You don't have much hair. You don't have much sulfur. Your frequency is different than his or hers. Every day, and this is how many know what a radionics machine does. Best kept secret in the world. A radionics machine works on frequency. Apis mel. Apis mel is cold sore. That's a virus. That has a frequency. It's made of 92 elements. And if you want to wipe out the frequency of Apis mel from cold sore, you put it into a radionics machine. Radionics is just unbelievable. And this is what homeopathy is all about, it's frequency. When I'm taking those hypericum pills from help me. What's the plant from hypericum? St. John's wort. I got a garden full of them. Why can't I think of it? I haven't got my daughter come over. She took it to the electronics probe. Mom and I did it all by hand. So things move on. Anyway, energy. That's what ergs is. Energy rates. That means when I got CEG with 1200 ergs, I've got dynamite with frequency. And don't you think it's going to have more effect than something with 600 ergs? It's got it. Okay, let's get rid of cortisol. We don't want that staring us in the face and getting us all nervous. Okay, so that's what a homeopathy is. And homeopathy was developed by Samuel Hahnemann in the 1790s. When Europe was colonializing all the third world poor nations, wherever they went to extract the minerals of their lumber or their natural resources, like we're doing in America, we're pilfering the world for oil. That's why we're doing all this thing, Iraq and Afghanistan. It's strictly for energy and oil. But anyway, let me think about where I was headed.
Botanicals.
Hmm?
Botanicals.
Extracting.
Man.
All right, 4.
Or
Number 4.
something with lactose. Oh, homeopathy. Wherever they went, there was yellow fever and malaria. And he was looking for a cure for malaria. And he found it in a tree, a cinchona tree in Peru. And if you exposed yourself to that tree, you had a minor malaria effect. It likes tree spikes. Well, if you expose yourself to quinine from the tree, you felt nauseous, you felt like you had a small attack of malaria. And he went through 2,300 birds, and he had people who would take this, what do you feel? And when a true homeopathy practitioner will give a dose, and they'll step back and watch. There's some homeopathy practitioners that are unbelievable. It's really, you really get connected. When I travel, we had a dealer in New Zealand and in Europe, and there's always an old 80-year-old lady. There was one in Bozeman, Montana. She was a midwife, 75 years old. She was the smartest person in the room, including me. She was a midwife that absolutely knew homeopathy. And when she treats somebody, she's watching, oh, that's good. Ooh, but can't use that again. But they really get into it. And so every old president had a homeopathy. There were, in 1900, there were over 100 homeopathy universities in the United States. And it wasn't until post-World War I that modern medicine came forth and we dumped it. Botanicals. Botanicals are plants that have a direct effect. If I were to shut that door and take some dried mullein leaf, which I have a whole bunch for Megan, it's a biennial. You got it all over the roads here. It's that one that comes up the second year with that yellow stalk and the big thick leaves, that's mullein. Mullein is a huge expectorant. If I were to close this up and Jordan and Darby and I would go around and just throw it air, this whole room, within minutes, your nose would be running. Your eyes, you couldn't keep up with 2 hands. I mean, you gotta, it brings up in the modal cilia in your windpipe, it brings up phlegm out of the lungs. It's an expectorant. Huge effect just in the plant itself. We have a product called OLSM, oregano, lobelia, slippery elm, and mullein. 2 of them vasodilate the capillaries in the lungs to bring more soldiers to help. 2 of them dilate the bronchioles so you don't breathe. And the 4th one is mullein, and it drains your sinuses. Anytime you get a pneumonia in a sheep, a goat, a cow, or in a human, you take OLSM. And you take, what else would you take for food? You're going to come down to the cold. You get yourself a little bottle of CEG, and you put about 5 drops on your tongue. You get OLSM, 5 drops on your tongue, and you drink an ounce of aloe vera. An ounce of aloe vera. You're stirring your immune system on. So, anyway, botanicals, there's a whole world of them. I think we got one, Megan's got one shelf in her warehouse where it's nothing but plants. Starts with A and goes to Z. Colostrum Whey. This is that company in Iowa that took colostrum and immunized them. They don't know what's in colostrum whey yet. Where I use colostrum whey is if you've got triplets from sheep or twins from a goat, and that 1 or 2 of them, and then you got that poor little runt kind of dripping along, and he's kind of lost. That poor little animal would really benefit. What's in colostrum is the passive immunity from that cow's udder, and that's the Merck manual is in that cow's udder. This company has got them, and you're giving instant immunity to that little calf. And they have it now, so you don't have the organic world. We don't give any shots of syringes anymore. It's all drenching or pills, drenching aloe. All the tinctures. The tinctures go in the mouth. They also, in dairy cattle, can go in the vulva. The vaginal lining is like your mouth after estrus. You don't give a 3-month-old calf any tinctures in the vulva. A big old cow or beef cow that's not hand-friendly, they have syringes with a little pipette on, and you just put it in the vulva. You want to get it over the pelvic rim. Also in the mouth, when you put a tincture in your mouth, keep it in your mouth. Keep it in your mouth because your bones, your tongue, your cheeks, it's absorbed, bingo. You put a tincture in your mouth and it's in the bloodstream in seconds. It doesn't go down into the intestinal villi and absorb. And so, antioxidants. What's an antioxidant? An antioxidant cleans up the mess in the bloodstream. Here's the bloodstream. Here's pneumonia. We got COVID. We got this virus in here, and it's ripping up alveoli, and you got a little chunk of protein. And there's a red blood cell. Okay, and you've got some serum. So you have increased protein in the bloodstream, gives you a headache, nausea, you don't want to eat, a fever, your bone marrow and your thymus have what's called macrophages. And these are large cells, immature. These will turn into a monocyte, an erythrocyte, a lymphocyte as they mature, but these are called macrophages. They come pouring out and they go into the bloodstream and they engulf debris. They'll come up to it, it's like a little pseudopod, they come up and they come up, and so you end up with this macrophage and he's got plumb full. Where does he go? He goes to the spleen. The spleen is your sanitary landfill. You got some iron in this blood cell, so we extract the iron. Where do we put the iron? Out into the striated muscle. It's reharvesting, okay? When you have a kid that's got, when these come out like this, it's called the white blood count, the WBC. So little Johnny has appendicitis. Is he gonna get over it? Oh boy, his UBC, well, this went up, he's getting worse. Your medical profession on the left side will palpate the spleen. If that spleen is enlarged, and this white belt, they say, we gotta open this kid up, this thing's disruption. So this spleen is an indicator, okay? And these macrophages. What speeds up macrophages coming out? Antioxidants. What's the best known antioxidant? Vitamin C, thank you. Natural. What's even more effective that's natural? Been known for years, rose hips. During World War II, with the Germans and the submarines, Europe lost all their sources of vitamin C. They paid the housewives in Britain to go out to the rose bushes and gather that little gummy rose hip. And they were using that for vitamin C. We've had progress. There's a tree in Brazil, You got an antioxidant? I gotta see in a moment. Antioxidant. Paudiarca. Paudiarca. This is a tree. Huge antioxidant. We're new one on the scene in the last 4 years. Really potent antioxidant. Anybody here of aronia berries? Somebody here's got to have aronia berries.
No berries yet.
Huh?
I have 2, but no berries yet.
Yeah. I got 7, but I got 40 deer eating on them. I'm gonna have to build a fence around them. And Darby did a good job. He shot 2 deer in the farm last year. Did you have deer meat? That rotten deer? Oh no, you got pork.
Yeah.
That one deer you should never butcher. Anyway, antioxidant. Whenever you get an infection, you're gonna treat it with that. You don't like it, deer meat, do you?
No, your jokes are really good, Paul. I've been an A+ from the back of the room.
That's my other daughter-in-law. I got 2 of the best daughter-in-laws in America, so I'm happy. Anyway, you throw in if you go to Mexico, you're going to get treated alternative with cancer. They give you mega doses of IBC. I mean, you're talking about minus falling weird. Linus Pauling is the one that said you could go up to 2,000 milligrams of vitamin C per day. And I'm over that, I take more than that every day. That's an antioxidant. Essential oils, that's Megan's forte. She wrote the section in the book on antioxidants. She uses a lot of antioxidants in her human therapy. Dr. Tom Raskus and I have developed a new word that Ivomec, fenbendazole are 25 to 35% effective for worming. Sheep and goats do not get, the worming isn't working anymore with these chemicals because the animal has changed their genome. And this gets into epigenetics. You know what epigenetics is that you adapt to your environment. And these sheep and goats now do not, Ivomec does not work. Fenbendazole, which is Safeguard, that's about 40% effective. I went to New Orleans to the Bovine Practitioners Convention to keep my credits up, and and Dr. Mark Anderson from LSU Vet School said the chemical wormer era is over. He said we have to follow Australia's lead. They're developing parasite-resistant sheep by genetics, not GMOs. They're just selecting this every once in a while. A sheep doesn't get any parasites, or they're propagating his genetics. Or he said, and I about fell off my chair, we have to go to the jungles. And we are in the jungles. How many people know what neem is? Neem oil, neem bark. That's a tree in India, Sri Lanka. There's a lady in St. Paul, Minnesota, whose brother, she's from India. Her brother has a huge plantation of neem trees. No insect will eat a neem tree. The wood won't rot. The leaves, nobody feeds on it. And they extract neem oil, or they take the bark, just bark, they grind it up, pulverize it, and it's an excellent wormer. It's an excellent wormer. And in, I don't know if you've got any here, we have taken Europe now. Essential oils are very toxic. They're full of ergs. You can't take essential oils orally. Essential oils are all topical, or you just inhale them. Dr. Young in Utah, Young Living, was a pioneer in essential oils. He's no longer in that business longer for many reasons. But anyway, so they have taken Germany and they have micronized essential oils, which means they have broken them up into very, very small particles. It's like we do with a soup separator or a homogenizer. If you don't homogenize the milk, water fat comes to the top. If you break cream into little bitty particles, it stays in suspension. They have taken and micronized essential oils and coated it with a neutral oil, whether it's olive oil or canola oil, I don't know what it is, and that you can take internally. And they have micronized cinnamon, thyme, oregano, and the fourth one I don't know. And we have got a hold of that from Germany. And they have tannins from a chestnut tree in France that have tremendous effect for people, much more effective than black walnut tannins, which you have to be careful with black walnut tannins because that can be toxic. And we are in research and development with that in the liquid form. We have it in there's a handout called Clean Start, and there's a 25-pound bag over here and a pail over there. It's an excellent sheep and goat wormer. And it's an excellent horse wormer. Horses will eat it. Cattle, we're seeing some really fantastic results with our new, and they're doing so much research in Europe on these herds that this Dr. Tom is a computer guru, so he's really helping me come up with new stuff. Trace elements. We got 15 minutes left before lunch. There's two trace elements that I want to talk about that have become very, very big. in the organic world. Kelp, or seaweed, is loaded with trace elements. Two of the big ones in kelp are manganese and iodine. Okay? Where is manganese important? You remember my drawing of the hormone and my drawing of the ovary? And this is the messenger. What's the worker? It's an enzyme. Your body has 35,000 enzymes. You're going to eat some of pulled pork today, and you're going to need enzymes to digest that, along with microbes. And an enzyme is a little chunk of protein called an amino acid. You all heard in 8th grade science that protein was made up of amino acids. That's where this A2A2 comes in. You'll get to hear about that later this afternoon. And the other thing that's hooked onto that amino acid is a trace element. The enzyme for reproduction is full of manganese. Whereas 90% of the manganese in a cow, in her ovary, in a bull, in his testes. What's really high in kelp is manganese. Screaming high. Okay? When we get over here, okay? If you've never used kelp before, when you dry a cow off, or if you, even during your pregnancy, or if you want to become pregnant, you go on kelp. You're going to fertilize an egg out here in around the 100-day period. The egg starts to develop about 4 weeks before calving. Every dry cow or springing heifer or goat or sheep or horse, when they stop lactating, put them on kelp, and when that egg starts developing, if you've got high manganese, when you're going to repeat them, don't you think you'd have a really healthy egg? You wouldn't. One of Megan's first things she does, when she got out of acupuncture school, she went to downtown Madison. Madison's got 4 lakes, and Madison's built on what's called an isthmus. And she worked in the isthmus clinic. There were 7 female acupuncturists, and their whole specialty was female infertility. The young, educated gal in America, prime time to get pregnant is after the prom when you're 17. When you wait till you're 35, your reproductive efficiency drops down. When you got your PhD and your husband, or you're looking for your husband, and you're going to be an intellect, you're going to be a homesteader and that, they can't get pregnant. And she says, Dad, you won't believe the young people today either really get it, and that's your plants, or the bottom dwellers live on Diet Coke and pretzels or potato chips. They don't have a clue. And when they come in and say, well, we spent $30,000 in Mayo Clinic, we got this done, we got a chip uterus, we got this, she'll say, oh, know what you're eating. What's she put them on first? Kelp capsule. Just makes so much sense. It's a trace element. And it's loaded with trace elements. And this enzyme deal here, this manganese. So when you travel, if you get COVID or respiratory, you know what you're going to need down here? Zinc. Zinc helps prevent respiratory. Kelp's got zinc. Kelp's got iodine. Huge amount of iodine. Iodine, if you look at iodine on the elemental chart, it's got 53 electrons. 53 electrons in iodine. And if you look at vertically, here's iodine, 53. Here's fluorine, here's chlorine. All of the things with the same valence do the same thing. These are all poisons. Iodine is a misnomer. How it ever got included in our thyroid gland is control obesity metabolism is a misnomer. But you better have iodine in you or you'll get a goiter. You have to have it. And iodine is a huge supplement they use for the metabolic system. I'm sitting after a meeting with Dr. Richard Ulrey, who is a brilliant genius friend of mine, and we feed kelp in the organic world, and our reproductive efficiency is tremendous. And I said, how much iodine does a cow build up with when we feed him all this? He said, I don't know, but he said, let's try something. Let's do a hair analysis. He's big on hair analysis. So we took 6 herds, 3 in Michigan, 3 in Wisconsin, that have never seen kelp. Never seen it. And you take the hair up around where the horn is, you clean it up, you cut the hair, we send it into a lab in Chicago. It cost Dr. Paul's lab $600 to do a hair analysis. And then I took 3 herds, we took 3 herds that had never been without kelp. The day they're born, these calves can lick kelp. And they get kelp-free choice their whole life. We came up with a level, this blew us away. It was off the charts of iodine. Guess what? You know who doesn't like iodine? Lice, flies, internal parasites.
Don't like it.
Bingo.
Mosquitoes also?
Said mosquitoes.
Mosquitoes?
I can't answer that. I should put my wife on it because if there's a mosquito around, it gets her. It has to have, it has to have it. I had one farmer in Iowa that I put a meeting on, and he went on kelp. And 4 years later, I'm talking about, well, you feed this, don't you, Ken? Yeah, I said, I hate it. I said, well, there's nobody around here. Yeah, he said, the flies won't land in the cows, but they're all over me. I get this call. When you get cows on grass and you don't violate the grazing rules of going too short or going under 3 inches, see a parasite, a larva to reinfest has to be eaten. And on a dry day like here now, when the dew wears off, that larva dies. An average larva can only swim 3 inches a day. So when we get a lot of rain in the Midwest, you don't graze below 4 inches. Keep your animals on kelp. Pink eye. I'm selling pink eye nozones. Nozone is a homeopathy vaccine that can only be sold by a veterinarian. I had a call yesterday. I sold the guy, it wasn't pink eye, it was black eye. Anyway, when you feed cattle mice, or cattle kelp, you won't have mice in the winter. You'll have less parasites. And what happens is that Joe goes to the coffee shop and he's got 3 conventional farmers. Well, I just went through my herbicide. Yeah, I did 10 benzol. How do you do it, Clyde? I haven't burned in 8 years. Oh, he calls me and he said, you guys are running their cows twice a year. He said, should I be doing it? And they said, you're on kelp, aren't you? Yeah, he said, I heard Dr. Guy. One of my co-herders that are getting going, I've been on it for 4 years. How's your hair going? It's good. The hair will be, there's essential oils in kelp, and the hair will look shiny. Have you ever seen happy lines on a cow? Happy lines on your cows? That means that your glandular system is working, and you've got enough energy in that cow. They just shine those happy lines. So kelp I really like. If you take a 50 cow herd that's never had kelp, and you throw a $60 bag, 50 pounds of kelp out, it'll be gone in the morning. And the Amish are going to call me and say, I'm not going to feed any more of that. You cannot introduce kelp that way. You start out at 2 ounces per head per day, or you mix it 50-50 with Redmond salt, and they'll drag in salt at about a ½ ounce, and they'll bring in a ½ ounce. When you get a herd that's been on kelp for a while, they will average maybe a ½ ounce a day, is all. But boy, I like kelp. I've never seen anything in the veterinary and the nutritional world that has done more good than kelp for so many things. And I don't sell I don't sell it. It's in some of our products, but I don't sell it per se. It's a ball panel. The second thing I want to talk about is humates. Humates. And humates are in the carbon cycle, and we'll show you over here. Here's the is between a peat bog and coal. Full of carbon, it's full of humic acid. What's it do? Feeds microbes. Where? On dead, glyphosated soil or in the gut. It is the feed for these critters right here. We have farms coming into the organic world now that are Roundup Ready farms. And what's happening is the younger generation is saying, Dad, I'm not going to try your dairy farm. I'm saying, look at me. I want to sell value added. And so Dad will call me. He heard me 3 years ago. Son's dragged into a meeting, and he said, can you help me, Dr. Paul? God, I love those phone calls when they do that. They are so funny. What's the first thing you do? You test the soil, and you don't do it through the county agent. You do it so that you get calcium tested. You get all the trace elements. You want to know where your boron is. You want to know where your sulfur is. It costs the same. You just got to use a different test in the same lab. And then you interpret it, and you start your fertilization. And then you start with your microbes. The first thing I do is I put 200 pounds of humates on per acre to make up the microbes. What you need to do is in your garden, get some humates and put garden. You can put it right on the row. When you put your seeds in the ground, you put it right in your, because there's energy in humates, a lot of roots. You can put kelp and humates into your carrot seed, everything, and it'll jumpstart. So, and that's going to be in this foliar spray that we talk about. But kelp and humates are really important. Structured water. I'll touch on that real quick. Ask your question.
Humates. Where do we get them locally? You found?
Pardon?
Where do we get humates locally?
They're available.
Cliff Rose, I think Rick has them at Cliff Rose.
Not in big bundles. Peaceful Valley or
I've gotten it through IFA. I mean, I put it on acres at a time.
Then you go with Geisinger's, which is now ANC. I talked to him the other day. He has bulk humates. He has bulk humates.
He does the back down there.
Big garden.
He has humates down there in 1-ton super sacks and smaller bags.
Yeah.
Both.
Yeah, it's not expensive.
They come